Remember?
4 sides.
So log is 4 sides, and I know it seems like it would be 4 sides, but what it is it's an exponent of 2, so degree of 2 for quadratic. So we're going to do a lot of things with second degree terms with an exponent of 2. So today we're going to just do some factoring review. We'll do that today, and we'll do that tomorrow, and then we're going to start with the solving quadratics. So this unit will be solving quadratics. So factoring, when we get at a common factor, show you several reminders of factoring methods today. One of them is factoring out a common factor. So we want to look at what can we factor out of both of these. When we did our warm-up, we multiplied. Factoring is going the opposite direction from multiplying. So what is it that we can take out of both a 24 and a 15? 3. So is there any letter we can take out of both of them?
Nah.
There isn't. So 3 times what is 24?
6.
3 times 8. And then 3 times what is negative 15x to the third?
5.
Negative 5. Any x's left?
Yeah, x cubed.
X to the third. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So when we multiply this out, it gets us back up to here. So factoring is going from here to here, and then multiplying is going from here to here. Questions on that? It's going to get harder than that. Okay, so number 2. Is there a number that I can take out of all of those numbers listed there? There isn't. Is there a letter? Yeah, what letter? Just an n. No n squared. No other exponent n, just an n. So now we're going to say n times what gives us 20n to the 6th? JJ, what'd you just say? 20n to the... Good. So what was your thinking when you knew it was a 5 there? Because it's been a bit for a lot of us. So what were we doing? Can you explain that? It's okay if you can't.
Because we take an n out, and that's
Yeah, so there's 1 less. And then, yeah, and so this exponent on this n is assumed to be a 1, so it would be 1 plus 5 gets us back to the 6. Does that make sense? And so what would the next term be? N times what is negative 3n squared? Positive or negative? Negative? Negative what? 3n. And again, the exponent here is like a 1 and a 1. 1 plus 1 gets us back to the 2. Does that make sense? Okay, and then what would go last here? 15 plus, so plus 15. So don't forget that last term. You have to be able to take this and multiply it out to get back up to here. Really common mistake is to miss that last term. Leave that last term out. Put that last term out. Okay, what about number 3? What goes into all of those on number 3? So a number and a letter, right? We want the highest number. 9n, that's right. So if you thought 3, that's okay, but we want to get the highest number that goes in there, okay? So it could have been factored some more. So 9n, so 9n times what gives us 9n to the 5th?
n to the 4th power.
So I'm gonna have you raise your hand. And back here, what would be 9n times what gives you n to the 9n to the 5th? How many n's would we have in here? Yeah, good. You go 1 plus 4 gives you the 5. And there's like a 1 in the front. 1 times 9 gives you the 9. So 9n times what gives you 36n squared?
4n.
Good, 4n. 9 times 4 is 36. N times n gives you the n squared. And then 9n times what gives you 9n? 1. So we have to put a 1 here. Really common mistake to forget to put the 1 there. Okay? So now on number 4, we're going to change this to a 5. This is a typo. This should be a negative 20k to the 5th. So change that exponent here to a 5. So what can we take out of all of those? Thank you for raising your hand, JJ. Please raise your hand, because I don't want everyone to just stop thinking and think that there's a couple people who are going to answer it. JJ, what do you think?
10k to the second.
I like the k to the second. That's okay. That's okay.
Ooh, that's what I told you.
See, like they're criticizing me. That's not good.
So, unfortunately, 10 doesn't go.
Oh my bad. Yeah. 5k.
5k to the
5K
second.
to the second.
So this is a weird one. It starts with a negative number. When we factor, we like that first number to be positive. So when we factor it out, we're going to factor out a negative 5k squared. We just like that first term to be a positive. This is weird math thing. So negative 5k squared times what gives us negative 20k to the 5th? 4k to the 3rd? Does that make sense? No. So negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. K squared times k to the 3rd. We add those exponents to get k to the 5th.
You have to just shift to negative on 5k.
So we want to factor out that negative, yeah. Whenever that first term is negative, we want to factor out the negative.
Well, for example, on a test, if you answer it and you just kept
So,
it.
I'm not going to give you a test where you just factor. I'm going to give you a test where you have to actually solve it. And when you go to solve it, you're going to have to factor. Because if you don't, you're going to get it wrong.
Yeah, so you have to factor the negative.
So the problem is if you don't factor it out, you'll probably make a mistake doing something else. Because when we do that factoring on other types of factoring that we're going to use, we need that first term to be positive. So negative 5k squared times what gives us negative 10k to the 4th? This group here. Somebody besides Bruno. What's that? Good. And she said positive 2k squared. Good, because it was a negative over here already. And then negative 5k squared times what gives us 30k to the 3rd? Good, we said negative 6k. And then what goes for the last term?
1.
A positive 1 or negative 1?
Positive. Oh, wait, negative.
That's all right, easy to do. So I want you to do number 5 on your own. So go ahead and do this on your paper or on your desk. Did you do 5?
Yeah, I actually did 5. No, touch my head.
Oh, okay. So look at my desk, please.
You're the one talking about.
I would check today. I really don't believe that. You're lying. What? Spencer Rattler is good, bro.
I just don't remember that.
Spencer Rattler is good. I think he's good. He's the best. He makes good reads. He's probably athletic.
They also got that.
He might be like a non-athletic factor. So, yeah. Kobe, you were wrong. Kobe. No, I get my home side. So like, I'm athletic. He doesn't have the scramble ability. Or the arm. The winger is the arm.
Okay, so you should get 5x times 7x minus 4. Questions on that before we move on to the next one?
Why is this one positive? And then that one, other one's negative. How come this one is the 5x positive and then there is
So
5?
because this is a negative here, we don't like that first, I know it's a weird rule, we don't like that first term to be negative when we're factoring.
All right.
So on to the next page. Okay, so different kind of factoring here. So, what do we notice about 6, 7, and 8?
There's nothing there.
Is there something similar between those?
Yeah, like taking up.
That's right, we can't take out any common factor there. But we do have something in common with them. What's in common with those three there?
All squared.
They're all squared, they're all quadratic. Ooh, Dexter said they're quadratic, very good. You said term quadratics, and you said squares too, good. So these are all quadratics. And so notice, and how many terms are there on all three of those? 3. Notice on our warm-up, on all those answers, do they have an exponent of 2 on all those answers? And they all of them have how many terms for their answers? 3. Okay, so when it looks like that, and they all, what else do they have in common besides that? There's something else in common. They're all quadratics, and then yeah, like an X or a K in the middle, and every single one of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go the other direction. We're going to start here, and then we're going to go to this factoring where there's 2 sets of parentheses. So that's what we want to do on these. We're going to factor to 2 sets of parentheses. And so I have a way that I show you to do that, a reminder to help you set it up. So what you can do when you've got 3 terms like that, it's a quadratic with a negative x in the middle, is you can use what's called the x. And your goal is to eventually do this in your head. So if you don't like to use the x, you don't have to. I don't care what method you use. You can use whatever method you want. So you're going to take that last term, the term that does not have any variable with it, negative 63. And then we're going to take the coefficient of the middle term, in this case, negative 2. So we're going to figure out what multiplies to negative 63, and then what adds to negative 2. So please don't say it aloud. There's only 2 numbers that will work here. 2 and only 2. So think about what multiplies to negative 63 that adds to negative 2. Right, think about it. Thank you for reading your multiplication table, we use those a lot in this. So what did you get, Nikki?
Negative 9, 7.
Good. And those are the only numbers that will work. Negative 9 and 7. Has to be a negative 9, has to be a positive 7. That's it.
Yeah, correct.
Correct answer. So now when we go to factor, what if we want to look at what times what gives us x squared? X. So x times x, and then we're going to put a negative 9 and a positive 7. And that's our answer there. Could I have switched these 2 numbers, the negative 9 and positive 7?
Yeah, they're both X.
Yes, because it's multiplication. It doesn't matter what we multiply, what order we multiply something. We still get the same answer. So 7 set up the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're going to make an X again. What do we put up on the top, and what do we put on the bottom?
90 at top, negative 19 at the bottom.
Good. So I want a hand, please, for what numbers work there. Yeah.
Negative 9.
Thank you. Great, thank you, Henry. So now, Dea, can you tell me what the answer would be?
Negative x minus 10x.
That's okay. And it's an R this time. Like this here. And again, we could switch our order, couldn't we? Okay. So I want you to do number 8 on your own. So do that either at on your desk, with your whiteboard pens, or on your paper.
What is it? You prescribe it?
We have to win every single week except one. If you lose next week, you have to win every single week. Yeah, hurts. Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so we should get an answer of n plus 3 times n plus 4. Questions on that? Okay, what's different about number 9?
Going through.
There's only 2 terms, okay? So when there's only 2 terms, we still want to look and see if we can factor out a greatest common factor. Is there anything we can factor out of that? Is there? No, there isn't. But, oh, do you see what it is?
No, I was thinking about like you could do the x thing and you have 36 up, negative 36 on top.
So I'm going to show you something else. So you might have a way of doing that. But yours might be okay. But I want to show you something different. So notice that, can we take the square root of x squared? Yeah. Can we take the square root of 36?
Yeah.
So as long as there are 2 squares separated by a minus, we can factor it still the same way. And we're going to take the square root of x squared, which is, what is the square root of x squared? Does x make sense? Would be x? And x, does that make sense? And then what's the square root of 36? Ariella, do you know what the square root of 36 is? Yes. So 6 and 6. Now, to be able to get back to x squared minus 36, anybody have any idea what signs we would use on this? Will.
Negative and then a plus.
Let's try that. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to take this and multiply it out and see if it works. So this gives me x squared. This gives me 6x plus 6x. This gives you minus 6x. And this gives me a negative 36. And look, the positive 6x and negative 6x cancel. So what he said works there. So these are called the difference of 2 squares. So when it's the difference of 2 squares, you can just take the square root of the first one, square root of the second one. It has to be a minus, though. Doesn't work if it's a plus.
What if you did the x? Could you do the x thing and still get the same answer, like negative 36 up top and then like negative 6 and then plus 6? And then,
So what would you put for your bottom?
I guess it'd be 0, I guess. But that wouldn't work, right? Wait, wouldn't it work though? 36 at like the top of the x and then 0 at the bottom.
Yeah, it would work. So that's another way to do it. So go ahead. What would we do on 10? What's the square root of 25a squared? 5a. What's the square root of 9? 3. So 5a, 3 and 3. What are our signs on this one? Somebody from that group, back over there. Where are our signs? Positive and negative. So could I, Derek, could I have put a negative and then a positive?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Give me the same answer. Okay. So I'm going to come back to number 11. Go ahead and do this one. I'm going to skip 12. Go ahead and do this one. Do number 13. So right now on your paper or on your desk, do number 13, please.
So.
Oh, he's doing a team. God.
So on 13, you should get 3a minus 1, 3a plus 1, because the square root of 1 is 1. Now, what would we do on number 11? And that'll be our last one. How would that factor? Since this is an x to the 4th. So hold on, just one more, ladies. Just one more. JJ? What's the square root of 49x to the 4th?
7 and 5.
So 7 and 5. And then what would this be here? 7 what? See, did you want to say? Got a hand up? Good, yeah, 7x squared. And then what are our signs, Tia? What are our signs? Good. Okay, can I get somebody to